Alright guys, so what I want to do here is I'm going to go through chapters in Celeste, and I'm going to talk about the different strats that you can do in every screen that you would enter in the any percent route of the run. I may also talk about any slight variations that you can do for the all hearts run. I will not be talking about anything berry specific, as I haven't really researched the all berries run. But before I start, what I want to do is I actually want to go over some of the movement in the game so that you understand what I'm talking about when I explain a technique. So Celeste has 3 buttons. It's dash, jump, and grab. Dashing and then dash jumping are the same speed. This is grabbing. If you hold down and then dash and then jump, this is a hyper dash. You can see it goes much lower to the ground and goes further. It actually also moves faster. The same technique can be applied in the air, which is holding down, forward, and pressing jump to get a wave dash. And people call it a wave dash because that's also how you do a wave dash in Super Smash Bros. Melee. Hypers and wave dashes are essentially interchangeable. The only situation where they're not is on a platform about this small, in which you can't hyper and maintain your jump, in which case you would do a wave dash to maintain your jump. That's the only situation where they're like a difference of them. But for all intents and purposes, they're the same thing. So when I say wave dash, I'm saying this. When I say hyper, I'm saying this. When I say dash jump, I'm saying this. And then this would just be a dash, and this is a jump. As far as moving on walls goes, if I say wall kick, I'm just referring to the regular like Super Mario Bros. 64 like kick off a wall. And if I say wall bounce, I'm referring to dashing into north and then bouncing off the wall with a jump input while you have hyper momentum. I mean dash momentum, sorry. So that being said, let's just jump right into chapter 1. The first screen of chapter 1 is pretty straightforward. The simplest way to do it is to just jump dash to each platform. A slightly faster way to do it is to dash jump from the first to the third, for the first to second, and then from the third to the fourth. You'll almost always have to dash up forward here. There's a mechanic in Celeste where brushing against edges like that kind of like launches you over the corner. It maintains a little bit more momentum. I never intentionally do that stored momentum, so I won't be referencing it in any of my strats. I don't want this strawberry to get off of me. Another thing you could do here is you can maintain your dash by jumping later. As long as you dash in the last 3 frames, as long as you jump in the last 3 frames of your dash, I believe is the way it works, you can maintain your dash and then dash again in the air. For reference, I'm just going to be calling this extended hypers. So basically, whenever I crouch and then dash again in the air, that's an extended hyper. So for this particular screen, you could do an extended dash jump here to get up here faster, like at the start. See, but it's a little tricky because you start like in the middle of the platform, so that's how it would look. I personally just do a dash jump and then jump dash, dash jump, and then dash up. For this screen, the easiest way to do it is to just dash straight to the spring off of the incoming. Don't even touch the ground. Transitions are very important in Celeste, so it's good to know what you are going to do in the next screen before you enter it, so that the screen itself doesn't catch you off guard. So that's probably one of the most important tips for running this game, is just be aware of the next screen that you are going to encounter so that you know what to do. So for this situation, I always know I'm going to be going to the right, so as soon as I get into the screen, I'm already holding right, and then I dash up forward into the spring. For here, if you dash later, you can land on the top platform. If you dash earlier, you can land on the bottom platform. It's generally faster to just land on the bottom platform, because the longer you're in the air, the more velocity you're losing. So it's faster to just land and then jump up, as opposed to like trying to float over the spikes, especially because the dash itself is so tight that you might miss the dash and then have to climb up the wall anyway, essentially negating the time save that you were trying to get. So then come here and you can just climb up this wall, but this is a really easy wall bounce to get, is you just line yourself up with the side of the wall. Basically anywhere that you could grab the wall, you can also wall bounce off of it. So I just jump up here, line myself up with the side of the wall, and then dash straight up and wall bounce up. This room has two options. After doing them both, I don't really feel like they're that drastically different. Maybe less than a second difference between the two of them. The old easy way, the old easy way is to just dash up forward to that second middle platform, and then like again off the transition you would just hold right and then dash up forward to the platform, climb up it, and then hyper to the last platform. What people have been doing nowadays though is doing a wall bounce off of this wall, and the trick to getting all the way to the top is to do the jump as late as possible. So if you do the jump early, you wind up having to climb the wall like this, but if you do the jump later, Madeline reaches the top. And then this platform is big enough that you could do an extended hyper, so if you wanted to reach the thing in one dash, you could just do it like that. But you could also just hyper dash and climb once. I think they're about roughly the same. Climbing once is not that much longer than waiting to jump. Then for this next screen, you can just jump and dash into the screen. So for this screen, there's a couple of strats. I'm generally not going to cover any of the like vanilla intended strats for like newer runners. This is more of a, like what are the sub 40 runners doing in any percent tutorial kind of thing. So I'm not going to be like, oh, you could just dash up and climb on the left. No, I'm not going to be covering any of like those slow strats. Here it's essentially always going to be a wall bounce, and it's just a matter of whether you want to wave dash into the wall bounce like the task does, or if you want to just walk into the wall bounce and lose a few frames. So the wall bounce here is a little tricky. You have to line yourself up with the right of the platform, but then as soon as you press jump, you have to hold right. If you don't hold right, you're going to bonk yourself on that little corner of the exit, and this is what it looks like if you don't hold right. Oh, I held right. It's just muscle memory for me at this point. So if you don't hold right, you bonk your head right there. But if you do hold right, you go past the corner, and then you double back and grab it. Alright. So again, on the transition, you can either just land and then walk and do the wall bounce, or you can wave dash and then wall bounce, which is generally what I do in my runs. Something that you might have noticed there was that I wasn't immediately lined up with the wall. And what I did was I pressed left and then jumped immediately. And that's because when the first frame that you come out of your dash, you still have the momentum of the dash. So you can still kind of like readjust Madeline at the last second and get the wall bounce that you need. So it's a little bit more lenient than some people normally think. And then this next screen, you're going to want to dash over here off of the transition. And then you're going to wall bounce on this corner right above me here. So you're just going to land here and then jump and then wall bounce. And you can just hold up forward on this one. There's no trick to it. You don't have to like maneuver her around the corner. She already gets launched away from the wall as soon as you press jump. So you're just trying to get yourself back up onto the platform. And that's the easiest way to do this room. Again, what you want to do is you want to minimize any extra movements that are slow. You want to minimize any walking. If you can dash, you want to dash, and if you don't want to be like just dilly-dallying through the screens when you're going. So you would come here, you would jump into the screen because you're coming in from below. So you would jump in and then you dash, and then dash and then dash and then dash like that. Like you don't want to you don't want to crawl through the screen, basically is what I'm saying. On this screen, it's pretty straightforward. You just want to get on this platform as fast as possible and let the platform launch you here. You can do a couple of dashes to get from the platform, from the what should we call those, conveyor belt things. You want to get from the conveyor to this platform as fast as possible, but you also don't want to have to climb it, and you don't want to do anything risky that might kill you on the spikes. So I generally just jump all the way to the platform here. From this jump, you can do a dash jump, which is again just dash and just jump, no directions, and that will get you all the way to the spring. If you do a hyper, you actually are too low and you have to climb the wall. So it's better to just do a regular dash jump and get up the wall. And then from the spring, you can dash up into the next screen. It's important on this next screen to remember the screen that you're getting into. And if you have an issue remembering what screen this is, it's also the first screen in the crossing checkpoint. So if you start from the main map and you go to the crossing checkpoint, you'll be on the next screen. So the next screen is a little difficult, but the transition is very important to climbing the vertical aspect of the screen quickly. And there's two ways to go about it. I'm going to show the first way because the first way is completely reliant on the transition. The second one is not. And the first way requires you to dash along the left wall of this exit. So basically, when you're dashing along a wall and you enter a transition, if you press jump as soon as possible on the next screen, you can still wall bounce with the dash from the previous screen. And hopefully I'll get it here on the first try. Oops. So basically, I would climb here and then dash up. And then when I jump, you'll see that she still has the ripples because she has the momentum from the dash. And because of that, I was able to wall bounce all the way over here where I would jump, where I would dash and wall bounce again. So basically it was a wall bounce from here to here and then a wall bounce from here to here. This is where you want to finish your climb, basically. The other way, which is much easier and doesn't rely on that wall bounce, is to just land on the screen and then dash along this edge right here. And then you get two jumps. So you get a wall bounce here and a wall kick here, and you land here. And that's pretty easy. Just land and then like this, and then this jump is I like pausing the game just because it quiets it down. This jump looks very difficult, but it's not really that difficult at all. And essentially what you want to do is you want to extended hyper to the spikes and then dash over the spikes. But the problem is, as I mentioned earlier, is the platform that I'm standing on is too small to extended hyper. So what you have to do is you have to do a reverse hyper, which is dashing into the wall and then jumping to the right, and that will allow you to still use your hyper momentum, but you'll be on the ground longer, essentially keeping your dash. So that's what it looks like. You can see that Madeline's hair was still red when I got there and I dashed into the wall. What I like to do actually though for this section here is I like to do a wall bounce, a wave dash into the corner as opposed to a hyper dash. And the reason for that is that I feel like the wave dash is just a little easier to execute. Essentially the input is going to be down left and dash, and then I'm going to press right and jump at the same time, and it looks like this. Oops. I'm pressing the jump too late. That's what it looks like. So that's the first part. I also feel like the wave dash version of this is, since it's consistently the same height on the jump, you're more able to see the pixels at which you can dash, and you can dash essentially at 3 heights here with Madeline. It's the pixel right before the spikes, and then the second pixel, and then the third. So you can dash anywhere within 3 pixels of the spike and you'll make it over the spikes. I'm not going to try to dash here because it's paused and I'm going to mess up the timing, but I'll just do it in like one full attempt and then you'll be able to see. And it looks like that. And again, this works with the hyper or the wave dash. I'm doing like the second furthest pixel there. That's the third furthest. And then I can get like 1 pixel close here. There we go. That's the closest pixel. And all those work. So I like the wave dash because it's consistent, it's lenient, and it's just, you just have to think of it in terms of like executing a combo in a fighting game. It's just down left plus dash and then right plus jump, and you just gotta make sure to delay the right plus jump just slightly so that you maintain your dash. If you do it too quickly, her hair will stay blue and you won't be able to dash over. After this jump here, I like to not move forward, just land right here on the tip where Madeline is standing, because that allows me to hyper into the next screen. And I'm just going to show the fastest strat for the next screen. There's not really a reason not to learn the fastest strat, but the fastest strat requires you to hyper into the screen. And what's going to happen is I'm going to do something called a bunny hop, and then I'm going to run into the wall, which is going to stop my momentum, and then I can control Madeline, and it looks like this. Oops. That's the strat right there. And basically, a bunny hop is when you're on the ground and you just jump from one frame like this. That's a bunny hop. The thing about bunny hops though is that they accelerate Madeline, which is why you see people bunny hopping in the prologue. And because they accelerate Madeline, they don't remove your speed that you have from the hyperdash. And that's important because you want Madeline to go into the wall as fast as possible so that you can gain control of her again in her descent. So again, it's just going to be, I'm going to jump as soon as I press into the screen, get into the screen, and then I'm going to press left. You can see like she just falls nice and slow and I have full control of her. If I didn't bunny hop, if I did this, you can see that she still has momentum going forward because I didn't run into the wall. So you're going to want to bunny hop so that you can hit the wall, and then I hate that I keep getting that. And then you can dash down here. And then this again here, this screen is really straightforward. It's just a wall bounce along this wall, and the wall bounce will actually just smack you right into the jewel. You don't have to think about it. When you get here, like I said before, you don't want to be walking. You generally want to be dashing if you can dash, or hypering even better if you can hyper, because they're faster. So you're going to want to just hyper from here to the end of the screen. And like I said, again, wave dashing and hypers are the same. So since you have to clear this little nook right here, right? If I hyper, I'm just going to run into it. So what I do is after dashing here, I jump and then I wave dash. Like that's how I get to the screen, to the end of the screen as fast as possible. Because remember, wave dashes and hypers are essentially the same thing. It's important to note that when you hyper or wave dash, you can't hold jump to like maintain height. So like that's a hyper with like full height, right? And then this is a hyper with me not holding jump. You can see like I just plummet a lot sooner. So if you're trying to just move fast, like horizontally, you don't want to maintain the height because she loses speed while she's airborne. So you just want to like short hyper everywhere. So I'm gonna call these short hypers from the rest of the screen. And it's the same thing if you wave dash. Like if I wave dash and just don't hold jump, I get short wave dashes. So then the next screen here, if you're going for all hearts, you actually have to go north here, which is like this. That's how you would go up here, but we're not doing that. Yeah. So the next screen here, there's a moving platform that you want to reach here, but if I hyper dash, I'm not gonna reach, right? So what I can do though, since you can see I can normal jump onto the platform, is I'm going to hyper and then I'm going to bunny hop, and that's gonna put me on the platform. You see? So I triggered the platform. And then what you can do is from this platform, you can reach the other platform with a dash jump or a hyper. So I'm gonna chain the bunny hop into a dash jump or a hyper. Oops, sorry, I did an extended dash there. To get to the other platform. And then the rest is just maneuvering the screen so that you don't get smushed. And then this next transition, if you dash jump into the screen, you automatically land on the spring. So just make sure not to press down. Just press dash and jump together, and then hold jump, and you'll land on the spring. If you land on the back of the spring, you can dash down. If you land on the front of the spring, you have to dash forward. So you generally want to hold forward and try to land on the front of the spring so that you can get to the spikes as quickly as possible. You can reach this transition with just a dash, so you don't have to jump. So you can just dash into this transition and then wall bounce. You can wall bounce off of this wall to get to the rock right away. If you don't, it's not a big deal. You want to land on the rock, dash up. I should pause this so I can explain this a little better. You want to dash up past the spikes and then grab the top of the rock and then jump up to the next part and just wall bounce a bunch. Oops, sorry, that's not, that's gonna stink actually. Let's just start over. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to explain that section a little more thoroughly. Alright, so again, you want to dash up to this wall. You want to wall bounce as soon as you get into the screen, which is jumping press as soon as you pressing jump as soon as you have control of Madeline. And then it'll allow you to dash to the top of the block right away. and then you want to dash up past the spikes, grab the wall, and then jump up to the last part. So it's like this. Like that. That's how the room should look. If you want to be a task bot about it, you can climb this up here, which I don't recommend, and then wall bounce. It's not too hard, but it's definitely not really necessary. And then on this room, this is the first room where extended hypering from the transition is recommended. And so to extend that hyper from the transition, you'd have to do a wave dash because you're airborne, and then you have to jump late. So that's what it looks like. If you're not comfortable with that, you can just land and then do a regular extended hyper. It's not that big of a deal. But essentially you just want to dash to this platform and then dash up here. If you're feeling super reckless, what you could do is, and now I'm just kind of swagging out for no reason. Why am I not getting my dash back? Oh, I can't do it. I'm too bad. There we go. That's a super reckless strat that I don't even think saves time. But that screen is pretty straightforward. It's just an extended hyper to the platform and then dash up. This next screen is you want to hyper into the transition and then just dash to the 2 blocks. And then this next screen is actually going to go by kind of quick because the blocks actually launch you out of the room, so I won't have much time to explain it. But here, this is what the screen looks like. Again, I'm going to hyper into the room. It's going to put me level with the block, and then I'm just going to dash to the block and then to the next block. And then on the last block, I'm going to attempt to do a wall bounce off the transition in the next screen. So all together it looks like this. Like, that's what it looks like. That's the best way to do that screen. You can actually hyper from the first platform to the second platform in that previous screen, and it's like a few frames faster, but I don't recommend it because it's very likely that you'll hyper past the block and just kill yourself and have to do the screen over. For this screen, it's one of those screens where you want to do an extended hyper so that you maintain your dash. But as you can see, the platform under this conveyor belt is really small. So instead of doing a hyper dash, you're going to do a wave dash that maintains your dash, and then you can do it. I can do it from right now or from where I am, but I'm going to stop and land. But eventually you want to learn to do it off the wall bounce, but it's better to just understand what you're doing, and that's the trick right there. Is you want to jump, and then I find that jumping higher makes it much easier to maintain the dash. But you can like barely leave the ground and still maintain the dash like that. It's just a matter of pressing jump a little later. And then to exit the screen again, just hyper dash because you don't want to walk. And this is very simple again. It's another extended hyper to get over here, and then you're gonna come up here. And then the cassette is to the left behind that block if you're doing all hearts. And then here, this is another simple wall bounce. You just want to up dash next to this wall. And again, it's not that complicated. It's like if you were gonna dash and grab the wall, you can do the wall bounce. The only time grabbing is more beneficial is when you completely like go way past the wall. If you go way past the wall and have to double back, then you can't wall bounce. But anytime that you were in range to grab the wall, you can just press jump instead, and you'll get wall bounce. And then from here, this trick is a little complicated, but the best way to do this is to hyper dash and then hold forward. So you want to jump and hold forward, and what you'll see there is that I landed on that platform, but I kept my momentum as I was falling, and that allows me to get all the way under here and wall bounce off of this. So again, you wall bounce here, land here, and then you're gonna hyper dash, you're gonna hold jump, and you're gonna hold forward. And that lets you do that, and then you can wall bounce there. If you don't feel comfortable in the wall bounce, you can also just up forward dash. It's pretty fast also. Generally it's nice to land here so you can wall bounce off of this wall for the exit. This screen is just, it's just a climb into a dash, into a hyper dash. So it's not a complicated screen at all. I'm not gonna cover too much on that. This screen is a screen that we get a lot of questions about. It's the very first quote-unquote spike jump of the game. I hate that they're called spike jumps because you don't jump off the spikes. So when you're doing a spike jump, what you're jumping off is like, you see right here, oh crap, where I'm grabbing the spike, like every spike that has like a little wall next to it like this, that's what you're jumping off of. You're not jumping off of the actual spike. You're jumping off of the wall that's behind the spikes. So when you do something like this, like I just jumped off of the wall that was above the bottom row of spikes. I didn't jump off of any spikes. And so I feel like it's pretty confusing for new players that they're called spike jumps, because people think they have to jump off the spikes, but it's not off the spikes, it's off the walls. So the best way to learn spike jumps, and I learned this from TGH, is to just imagine that the spikes are not there. Like as soon as you take the spikes out of the equation, like picture the screen without the spikes and just try to wall jump off the wall, you'll find that you'll get it with a lot more consistency. What most people do now for this screen is when you come in off this transition, they dash forward onto this block, but because even though they're dashing horizontally, the block gives them their dash back like that. You saw how her hair was red. You'll also have more momentum because you'll be closer to the, it's like that. That's what it looks like. And then because you have red hair, you can spike jump here and dash across. So if you don't get it off of the transition, you get, again, this is a small platform, so you can't extend it hyper. You would just wave dash off of it, climb up here, and grab this wall. This wall is great because it vertically aligns you perfectly with the spike jump. So you should always grab this wall and just fall into the spike jump. And that way you don't have to align yourself, you just have to time the jump press. And it's a lot easier like that. Generally when you're above that wooden bridge and above these spikes, that's when you want to dash and you'll get to the bridge. You can dash straight also, it's a little faster. Oops. Like that, you'll make it. If for some reason you like mess up and lose your dash, you can spike jump a second time on the other side of these spikes. Like that's the way they used to do it in 90% run before people really started getting the hang of wave dashes. It's a little harder, but I don't recommend going for it really, especially if you're not comfortable with it. And then once you land here, to exit the screen as fast as possible, you want to wave dash off of this, and then hold jump going into the next screen so that you land on the spring. And then there's two ways to do this room. You can grab the block on the left and launch yourself around the room the intended way, or you could climb the wall on the left. And to climb the wall, it doesn't require neutral wall jumps. You can do it with just like climbing the wall casually. There's a video of it on the Celeste Discord, but I never bothered to learn that because I know how to neutral wall jump. But to neutral wall jump is basically, I'll actually just do it on this wall over here. It's basically jump off the wall and then immediately hold back towards the wall. And if you do it perfectly, then it's after you jump off that you press back. If you do it perfectly, you'll never lose height. Like this. You'll actually gain height if you go faster. So that's how you neutral wall jump. So what I like to do on this screen is I like to waste 3 of my climbs, 1, 2, 3, and then after the third one I start neutral wall jumping. Once you get to this second lip up here, from this second lip you can, oops, I meant to grab the wall. From this second lip right here, you can kick off the wall and reach the top part. But I like to do an extra kick just to be safe and because that one's kind of tight if you jump from right there. Oops. So right there I could have made it, but I go up a little bit more just to be safe and then dash straight up here. And that's how you do that screen. And then most people dash diagonally so they can wall kick there and then go back this way and then skip the cutscene. And that's chapter 1.